Hey everyone, Scott from Double Needle Design. Sorry I've been gone for a couple weeks, but I'm back with a couple more tips. This one about rooms in Revit. Wanted to talk a little bit about my process on how I do rooms, especially projects where you have an existing building, maybe with existing rooms, and then you have to move into new construction and phasing. One of the things I spend a lot of time doing is renovations, tenant improvements, and a lot of times you have to take your rooms and turn them into a new construction process. So let's get started with some room tips for you. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Really appreciate all the subscribers that I do have. So let's get started. All right. What I've got here is a project that I'm working on where we have an existing building that's going to be repurposed. But one of the most important things in an existing building is documenting the rooms, the spaces, and all the existing construction so you know what you're demoing in the future. So let's get started with some rooms. I'm placing some rooms in this project. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is why these are all blue. I prefer when working in rooms, especially when creating and adding new rooms, to turn on color fill, interior fill, and reference. Now, by default, Revit will only have color fill turned on. And what that means is when you're in this very black and white view, when you hover over or select a room, it will turn a different color. That keeps, at least in my display settings, a light blue. And now you can see what rooms you have placed and what rooms still need to have a room added to them. So that's my first tip. My second tip is I usually, when I'm placing a room, I like to reuse rooms if at all possible. I've deleted these or moved them out of the project, and now I have two rooms left over, E157 office and 190 room. I can repurpose these. I don't have to go to the architecture tab and create a new room every time, because if I continue to add more rooms to this project, these two rooms are going to stay here and not ever be repurposed or reused. That only becomes a problem when you're doing a room schedule, a room finish schedule, or any other schedule. I have an existing room schedule here, and suddenly you'll see at the top of your list that I've got two rooms that are not placed. That becomes a bit of a problem later because then I have to go to each one of these, use the delete command, get this warning, and it just takes a lot of time, especially if I have dozens that are not placed. So I usually like to repurpose my rooms if at all possible. When placing a new room, hit this pull down, see if there's any left over that you can reuse. The third thing I like to do when working in rooms is my room separation lines. By default, Revit's room separation lines look like any other line in the drawing, and when you've got a lot of them in a project, it's really hard to keep track of them. What I do when I'm working in a working view, make sure this isn't your regular CD view, your construction documents view, is I like to go to lines under model categories, scroll down until you see room separation lines, and I like to give them a really big, ostentatious color, weight, size, so that it's impossible to miss. Weight 12, color orange, solid pattern. And then what that does is when I turn off my thin lines, we turn that off. Now I can see throughout my project where I've created room separation lines. So I don't have some of those room separation lines hiding underneath walls. Even if there is one that's hidden under a wall, let's just create one under here. I would be able to see it very clearly and go, well, that room separation line's not needed. So I can tab on that and get rid of it. The fourth thing that I really think is helpful in Revit, and this will not reuse old rooms, but if you go to the room button and say place rooms automatically, it will take any enclosable spaces, areas that actually haven't been enclosed, and add rooms to them and center this large X right in the middle of the room, which for someone with OCD like me is very helpful. I don't like to see rooms where the X is down in the corner. It just, to me, is not clean. So I go to room and watch this empty white room here. If I say place rooms automatically, it says one room created automatically and it fills this one in. If I do this every time, say I realize that I missed a wall somewhere, maybe in this service bay, and there's actually an existing wall here, so it's going to cut that off and create an unused room. I've got some new construction in here, that's why that wall's broken. But if I go again to room and create place rooms automatically, it will automatically fill that in with a nice centered X. So a nice way to work with rooms and have them filled in. Place rooms automatically will also not work in areas that are too small. I don't know what the exact number is, but there is a furred out area behind this restroom. I need to get rid of that second layer of gyp on the inside. That's not correct. But it won't fill this in because the area is too small. I'd have to research and figure out what that area is. But it did take this furring area down here and fill it in. So I renamed that room to delete. This is furred. If I were to delete this now and keep working, every time I would place a new room automatically, it would fill this one in as well. So in my room schedule, I can scroll through at the very end when I'm finished placing all my rooms. I can see this one and delete it out of there. That way, it's not a room in my project. Finally, there are a lot of tools in pyRevit or pyRevit or whatever you want to call it. I've called it pyRevit for many years before several younger people in my office told me I was old and didn't know how to pronounce things. pyRevit, I guess, is the cool way to say it, but it's got a slew of great commands throughout this toolbar, and so many of these commands have additional commands underneath them. But one great tool is the renumber command. If you select renumber and you pick rooms, say I want to start with E101, then every room I pick, pyRevit or pyRevit, will renumber them in order based on my sequential clicks, which is incredibly handy in a project like this. I can go through the entire building and tag these rooms and renumber them very quickly instead of having to reselect rooms and renumber them. Thanks so much for watching. I'll continue to make more videos. Please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you again to everyone who has subscribed. It's great seeing this channel grow. Have a great day.